Welcome to Lessons in Life and Love with Riana Milne, where we show you how to have the positive mindset for success in all life areas. It's time to have the life you desire and the love you deserve.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lessons in Life and Love podcast. I'm your host and global life and love coach, Riana Milne, coming to you every Friday on lessonsinlifeandlove.com and my app, Lessons in Life and Love on the go. I'm all about helping you transform your life in all areas into one that you're passionate about and to help you attract and have the love that you deserve. I'm on a mad mission to change the way the world loves. So you'll learn how to have emotionally healthy, evolved, and conscious love and how to avoid toxic, painful, traumatic relationships, which seem too prevalent today. It's time to help you create the life that you desire and to have the love that you deserve. So if you have a personal concern, I invite you to meet with me for a life and love transformation discovery session during the week. Just sign up at my website, rianamilne.com. Okay, let's dive in, love angels and transformers. Today we have an interesting show. I am actually being interviewed by my youngest and beautiful, amazing daughter, Alexi Panos. Not only she is a great kid, but she's an amazing mega entrepreneur. Here's a little bit about her, because this show is for her podcast called Unleashed with Alexi Panos. Alexi is a life, love, and business strategist who shares both deep wisdom and practical tools to help unleash your most powerful life. Alexi has been named as one of Forbes' top 11 women entrepreneurs, Inc. magazine's top 10 entrepreneurs changing the world, one of Origin magazine's top 100 creatives changing the world, is the winner of the Millennial Mentor Award. A featured cover story about her can be found in Inspired Coach, Millennial Magazine, and Elixir Magazine, and is a featured expert in the films The Abundance Factor, Rise Up, and The Age of the Entrepreneur. As a bestseller, she's authored the books 50 Ways to Yay and Now or Never, both sold by Simon & Schuster. Alexi is on a mission to make personal development mainstream through her books and digital content, live experiential trainings, online education, and working with her nonprofit charity, EPIC, standing for Everyday People Initiating Change, which puts freshwater wells and other programs in Tanzania, Africa area. Follow her on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Alexi Panos, and her website is alexipanos.com. That's ALEXIPANOS. She's also an amazing mom as well as a beautiful daughter. So here is her podcast where she's interviewing me and we're having a great conversation called Unleashed. Enjoy.
Let's talk narcissism. Yes, this is a buzzword these days. People are throwing it around left and right for their exes, their parents, and all sorts of people. But we are going to get down to the research about what narcissism actually is, how there is actually healthy narcissism, and how it is a scale. And having this information is truly powerful because we can learn to see where we fit into this conversation and why we might be attracting people with narcissistic personality disorder that fall higher on the spectrum than others. So gear up for a powerful conversation with my mom, therapist and coach and expert on childhood trauma, Riana Milne, and we are going to dive into all the things relationships, narcissism, and personality disorders so we can have thriving partnerships that really put us in the driver's seat and have us owning our love and our lives. Welcome to Unleashed. I'm Alexi Panos, a life, love, and business strategist, leadership trainer, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. And you found the place for getting real, no BS tools, strategies, and inspiration on how to live your fullest potential, unlock your most authentic expression, and create a life and business that you're completely obsessed with. It's time to remove the chains that have been keeping us small. And it's time to live life unleashed. What is up, family? So I am here bringing you another episode with my mom, Riana Milne, who is a certified trauma and addictions professional, but also an expert in childhood trauma. And you guys loved the episode we did together, episode 15, all about lasting love. We talked about childhood trauma. We talked about what gets in the way of lasting love and why so many people have a hard time actually attracting and sustaining lasting love. That's literally one of the top rated, most listened to podcasts on this podcast. So I wanted to bring her back since she's here for my son's second birthday, which was yesterday. And we said, let's jump on into another conversation that seems super relevant nowadays that I hear a lot of people having, especially in the conscious community, around narcissism. And I've got kind of an interesting take on narcissism. She's got obviously the professional take on narcissism. So we're going to jump into an open and honest conversation around this topic, what to look for, how we can take responsibility for why we keep attracting people with narcissistic personalities, and actually understand what narcissism is as a whole, because it is not just a one and done kind of label to give somebody. It is a spectrum, and we've got to understand that. So without further ado, here is my mom, Coach Riana Milne. Hello.
Hey, baby. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to be back with you all, and I love the support and love that you give Alexi, and it's so great to see little Kingston and the family this weekend, 2 years old, and waiting for these two twin babies to emerge into the world, too.
My belly is gigantic at this point.
It's fabulous. It's fabulous.
We are making babies.
Yes.
Yeah, so let's talk narcissism. You and I were in the car, and I was actually talking about how our podcast together did so well, and I got so much feedback from it.
That's great.
Because people really we're missing information about our childhood trauma. We're missing these crucial bits of breadcrumbs that can really help us understand why A, we're attracting the type of people that we're attracting, and B, why it's hard to sustain that. Now, in that conversation, what's really kind of trendy nowadays is this conversation around narcissists.
Yes, it tends to be the buzzword.
It is.
And it's very sad that people are labeling people without really full understanding of what that term means.
Yeah.
But the whole childhood trauma piece is fairly new research.
Yeah.
And, my generation knew nothing of this.
Totally.
And it was only, once I went through a relationship hardship that I was led to do the research and saying, I need the answers.
Yes.
Because when 7 of my psychotherapist friends couldn't help me, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. Which, by the way, let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
The fact that we have trained professionals that are just now coming into this information.
That's true.
That is a really, and it's not that it's scary or, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. This is new information.
It's new,
it's
yes.
a new frontier.
And it's really love trauma, what I went through with that marriage that you're aware of, was not in the DSM, which us psychotherapists are supposed to find all the answers in the DSM. Love trauma is not in there.
Which is so fascinating.
And it is full PTSD.
Yeah.
Because I knew the symptoms of PTSD, and I couldn't stop them. And I'm like, who can help me? And I was not
Why
one.
is this showing up?
I'm not one to take medication. You know, I'm very holistic and natural, and vitamin therapy or meditation. I'll do that first. But I'm like, I need the answers so I can heal.
Yeah.
And then as the answers were coming to me, that's what compelled me. It's like, this information is so fabulous. I've got to write it into a book, which created Love Beyond Your Dreams. Break free of toxic relationships to have the love you deserve. That was actually my therapy, writing that book for 6 months with all the research that I was getting. And I'm like, this is so great. I got to take it global. Yeah. Which was really the beginning of getting me out of the psychotherapy local office and going global as a coach.
Right. Which I really want to point to. I love that talk therapy is available for people, and I think there's a lot of people that find a lot of value in that. But for those of you who have tried talk therapy and don't feel like it works, this is why coaching can be a really fabulous and amazing counterpart to that, because a lot of times coaches are certifying all the time. And I mean, if you're not, you should be. You should be staying up to date on all the new technology and mindset tools and things that we're learning about somatic trauma and all of this, which you're up to date on. And as a therapist, you weren't trained in any of this. It wasn't required.
No, I mean, I have a triple master's, that's what we were supposed to get.
Yeah.
But like I said, the worst place to be is at the point of, I don't know what I don't know.
Right.
And if 7 of my psychotherapist friends didn't know it either,
Right.
then I was compelled, and I'm a reader like you are.
Right.
So I've read over 350 self-help books that are all over my house and my libraries, and I'm like, these don't have the answers.
Right. Where's the
So
answer?
this is when I started going into the psychological journals and the deeper research and reading books that are a little bit more outside of the box. Then I looked over my 20 years of experience as a psychotherapist, since I got into this as my specialty area, and said everyone I worked with was from trauma.
Yeah.
Whether in the schools, from kindergarten through college, or the hospital center, where those kids were critical and cutting, self-cutting, mutilating, runaways, drug and alcohol addiction, the drug and alcohol center for the teen and adolescents, or even the women from the prison system, all came from trauma.
Right, right.
So then that's how I started piecing it together. What did I go through? What did my ex-husband have?
Yeah.
And then when the research says, well, 9 out of 10 people suffer in life and love due to past unhealed childhood trauma, I'm like, then that means I got to have some of that. If it says you have 1 to 3 out of these 10, it's, well, I could easily see his.
Yeah.
I mean, he unfortunately was sociopathic, and we're going to get into what that means, because he had a horrendous childhood and had 9 out of the 10 symptoms.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So I could easily identify his, and then that led to my forgiveness.
Right.
Because my spiritual empathy for him, it's like, wow, this is terrible.
Yeah.
You know, that he
this
went
was a
through
child
this,
at some point.
this hardship.
Yeah.
And I saw that in my other marriage that led to my forgiveness, right?
Which I think is really important, because I think there's a lot of people, again, wanting to just label, but a label without understanding.
Yeah.
On your partner's part, to say, oh, I get why. I understand why.
Right.
That leads us to compassion.
Yes.
And compassion is so huge, if not just to be healed yourself and to have some peace of mind, but also to be walking around on this earth with a different lens. To see that a lot of us, most of us, have suffered some form of childhood trauma, even if
That's
your parents were awesome and did their best.
Well, remember, the research shows at least 3 generations have childhood trauma, so which led to the understanding of my parents.
Right.
Right? My mother, I'm a baby boomer, grew up in the Great Depression. So we heard a lot of messages around lack, and there's not enough money, and we don't have enough money for heat or to put food on the table, you know. So all these messages stay with us, right?
Safety,
and you know me, I crave security, and I still have to do that for myself.
Yeah.
You know, so once you are aware what your traumas are, then we do the conscious work about fixing them. And when you're emotionally triggered, which happens because this is life, this is in Buddhism we call the Earth School.
Yeah, and
we're
you're
going
human.
to have lessons come to us.
Right, you're not perfect, nobody is.
And this is what I do with my couples too. They have to understand each other's childhood traumas.
Right.
Then they learn a whole new communication style around that. That's what I teach them.
Yeah.
To have this loving forgiveness and empathetic, and then also take ownership.
Yeah.
So let's say a heterosexual couple, because I work with LGBT too. Let's say the man comes home and he was criticized by his boss.
Right.
Which was triggering him because his father was critical of him and said, you're no good, you'll amount to nothing. The boss said something like, you know what, you really screwed this up, you're no good, I don't even know if we should keep you here. So now he goes back home to the wife and he's angry at her.
Right.
This is a typical unconscious relationship.
Sure.
Consciously, once they learn this work, they'll come home and say, look, I'm in a really upset way.
Yeah,
It's
I got
not
triggered
you.
today.
I'm triggered, and he understands it. Then he can explain it. She can have empathy for that.
Right.
And it's a whole different way of coming
For
home
sure.
and relating to your partner.
Which I think is huge. Like, there's a lot, and that's something Preston and I have been learning and really digging into, is that, and for any of you who are even single, it's important to know that when you're calling in a relationship, there is no relationship that's going to be perfect.
There is none.
Like, hate to break it to you guys, like, totally hate to break it to you, spoiler alert, there is no perfect relationship. However, if you go into a relationship knowing that you're essentially going to attract a partner that is going to bring up to the surface the parts of yourself that need to be healed, it helps you really understand that, okay, when my triggers come up, this is mine. I get to look at this and what needs to be healed in this moment. And we were actually just watching Super Soul Sunday with Michael Beckwith.
That was great.
And Oprah, and he brought up a question. He said, if you're in the dark night of your soul, ask yourself a question. If nothing changed, what would need to emerge within me to find some peace? And that's kind of how I look at entering into relationship dynamics. It's like, what needs to emerge within me for my deeper healing, for my peace, for my sanity? And sometimes it is leaving because there is toxic behavior, and we get to look at that as well.
Well, this is why when I work with my singles, I say you have to be a successful single first before you go out to date. And I don't mean successful monetary. I mean successful emotionally.
Right.
So that if you are emotionally and consciously successful, then all your life areas will line up to be where you want it to be. Now you're dating from a place of empowerment.
Right.
Right? And when you're consciously aware, hopefully you can meet a partner who's also consciously aware. Doesn't mean you're not going to be emotionally triggered.
Right, of course.
But now you're recognizing, for example, if you're someone that had abandonment in your childhood, one of the 10 traumas I talked about in episode 15, make sure you check that out.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
So you understand the 10 traumas. If you had an abandonment, even though consciously you might be aware this relationship's not good for me, it's not right for me, I can release them in love and say I loved what we had, but I don't see this as my future. I can do it in a loving and kind way. Then at least you're releasing them in love and you're protecting your own boundaries now.
Right.
But if you're someone that had abandonment, then you might break up and go back, and then break up and go back again.
Or try and hold on even tighter and say, let me fix you.
Yeah, you want to fix them. And most people don't want to be fixed unless they recognize their own childhood traumas, right? It's where we have to make the conscious awareness stronger than the unconscious pull of the unhealed traumas.
Yeah.
That's the important part. And that we're not labeling others for our own responsibilities we're supposed to take part.
And that is my number one issue. And here's the thing, full disclaimer, I do believe in narcissistic personality disorder.
Yes, it's real.
It's real. And I think there's two sides to this conversation that are very black and white. It's like, it's real and everyone's a narcissist that I dated and it's all their fault and it's a blanket statement that takes me completely out of responsibility. Or there's the people that are like, it's not real, you're just using that as an excuse, But there's a very gray area, and I think it's why information on this and really educating ourselves on what this is so important, because there's a lot of people with narcissistic tendencies, and it's not always a terrible thing because it's a scale.
Yes, let me tell you a little bit about that. Okay, so the narcissist, there's a wide range from a very kind and healthy narcissist to what we call malignant narcissists. And the malignant narcissist is the most dangerous type.
Right.
The sociopath and psychopath are always malignant narcissists. So let me go into what a sociopath is, because that's very important to understand. Because a lot of people say, oh, he was a narcissist, and then when I hear the description, I'm like, no, he was a sociopath.
Right.
Okay, now a sociopath is someone that uses someone for pleasure or profit.
Okay.
Sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. They're trying to prove something to a past parent and live this grand lifestyle because the parent said you'll never amount to anything.
Right.
Okay, so they will attach themselves to want the lifestyle or the income from that partner they think can give it to them.
Okay, to be someone who's like, I'm dating someone who's really beautiful, who's arm candy, or I'm dating someone who's influential and part of a network. Like they're utilizing them for some personal gain.
Without any remorse. So if it ends up you hurt them, they just disappear without an apology.
Okay.
And you'll never get the apology from that person. You'll never hear I'm sorry. So trust me, I've waited. I've waited 50 years. You don't wait. It's not going to come unless they understand their own issues.
Right.
Okay? Let's go into a sociopath. Now there's a checklist from Dr. Hare, H-A-R-E, called the Sociopathic Checklist, which is in my Love Beyond Your Dreams book.
Okay.
But I'll name some of the things that sociopaths do because it's very important because these numbers are increasing.
Okay.
When I did my initial research in 2011, Martha Stout's book, The Sociopath Next Door, cited 1 in 25 people were sociopathic.
Okay. This is based on testing.
Yes.
Okay.
Now it's 6 to 7.
Wow.
Out of 25.
What do you think is responsible for the increase?
The falling apart of our families.
Interesting.
The moms are working a lot. The fathers aren't around. The fathers are less responsible. And I'm not saying all. I think the millennial men are doing so much better than the baby boomer men ever did.
Yeah. I think we all are. We're always learning, right? Generationally.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And you can see the millennial men that grew up with the single moms, and you too, Preston and you that had strong single moms, that there's more empathy for that woman that has to be out there working and supporting the family or paying the child support or doing everything.
Yeah.
And the father's kind of checked out.
Yeah.
It's big because thank God it's changing that way.
Yeah.
But now we have all this technology. So parents are checking out in their phones, or I call them the machines. Okay. They're all the machines that are out there, and they're not connecting emotionally to their kids.
Yeah, that's
This
huge.
is big. Parents, please recognize this, because you want a child that's confident, that interacts and is socially confident.
Yeah, I'm going to get on my soapbox real quick. You guys know I talk about this quite a bit. We have to be responsible for our use of technology, especially in a world where most of us work online and we have the perfect excuse. Well, it's my work. I've got to respond to emails. I got to post online because I'm a coach and blah, blah, blah. Put boundaries on it, because if it is controlling you, you are addicted to it, and you have to be responsible for that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do a parenting show too.
All right, I'm off my soapbox now, but you guys know how I feel. Like, be present. Your life is happening in real life. And yes, technology can be a part of that. The truth is, I would say 95% of people are addicted to their technology, and 94.9% of those people will not admit it.
Yeah, they're starting to do studies on our little people, our children, being on machines before they do anything else.
Yeah.
It's like machines all the time, and you got to get them off. You got to get them into normal play.
Yeah.
Creative play.
Outdoors. I was even telling my mom, we were talking about how there's new research about our posture, and how our posture is actually changing on an evolutionary perspective, and our posture informs our emotional life. And if our posture is shoulders down, head down, neck down, because we're always looking down, it actually creates a depressive state, which depression rates are on the rise.
Yes, they are on the rise.
So we've got to look at, like, this is not just like, oh, I might be addicted to my cell phone. This is like, oh, wow, this might be informing my whole life. Yeah. Not just my relationships, but my whole life.
It's a Dr. Hare's checklist of sociopathy. I'm all about research. So I'm going to name some of them. They expect perfectionism in their mate.
Okay.
They can be jealous and controlling. They might isolate the partner from family or friends.
Okay.
Because they want more of your time.
I've been with one of those before.
Yeah.
For sure.
Master manipulator and con artist. So they're going to tell you, like, they're brilliant liars. They expand on all these ideas and you believe them.
Yeah.
They're so good.
They're super
idea of the week, job of the year, and it's like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and you want to believe in them.
Yeah.
So they can be cunning, outright cruel, devious, very impulsive.
Okay.
They can be prone to several addictions, definitely porn, sex, overly sexed, alcohol, pills, cocaine. Addictions are always part of the sociopathic's life. They're emotionless and ruthless. The biggest thing, they have no remorse for their action. They won't apologize. That's, like I said, was one of the big ones.
Yeah.
They can be very moody, difficult and demanding.
Okay.
They lack consciousness. They're just coming from impulse. They do crave money, status, and power, and they use others to get it. That's the big one.
And that seems like that's the wound, right?
That's the wound from, the mother or father telling them they're no good or criticizing them.
Or just not even being present.
Yeah.
To be like, look at me, look at me, look at me, I'm important.
Feeding the ego of the child, which is natural and normal and necessary.
Yeah.
Right? And if they don't get that, then they crave it as the adult. Or they could come from living in poverty and seeing this ideal life that other people can have, saying, I want it, no matter what, I'm going to get it, without consciousness. They often don't have any close friends. And if they do, then that friend is subservient to that person.
So they're like the leader in
Yes,
charge.
they want to be in charge. So they very rarely have a group of friends. Poor work history, inconsistent. It's like, again, job of the year. Early behavioral problems. They could have had juvenile delinquency, fast marriages to a wealthy partner. You know, and some people say, wow, he loves me so much, he asked me to get married in 3 months. It's like, that's a warning sign.
Not always, but sometimes.
Can be. Yeah, it can be. So you have to be really careful. And simply, the psychopath is a sociopath who kills.
Okay, so there's an important distinction, because I think based on television or like Law and Order, who knows where it came from.
Okay.
I had this idea that like the sociopath is like the crazy person that's a killer. But it's not.
That's a psychopath.
That's a psychopath.
That's right.
So a sociopath is somebody who can very easily function in society.
They do function in society.
And almost maybe get celebrated in society,
yes,
sounds like.
But they often have a secret life.
Right.
Or their life at home is secret, and they portray this grand image out in the world, and their home life is suffering.
Right, which I actually find, and this is going to be a pretty bold statement, I find this rampant in the coaching industry, unfortunately. You know, knowing a lot of people who have been in the coaching industry or who are just getting into it, I'm finding there's a level because of social media. My life online is fabulous and amazing, and let me preach to you how perfect I am, and let me speak from my soapbox on how I'm doing everything right. And then what we don't see is the relationships are failing. What we don't see is how they're lacking accountability and showing up in all the things that they're telling other people to do.
Right.
Would you label that sociopathic, or is that just a lack of consciousness and awareness?
As a singles coach, I also say it's okay if you say consciously, I'm not going to date right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And women have often been stereotyped and stigmatized if they don't have a relationship.
Oh, for sure.
Which I think really sucks.
Yeah.
You know, I tell the singles, consciously make that if you're moving to a new area, if you're starting a new business and you know that business is demanding time.
Yeah.
And you're in the relationship coaching space, it's clearly okay to say, I'm choosing to be single right now, or I'm just going to date for making new friends, but I don't really desire a relationship right now. And that's empowering.
But that's different, right? That's somebody taking responsibility, going, here's what I'm consciously aware of this, versus what I'm talking about is like the business coach, which I see a lot. The business coach that's talking about, you need to make 6 and 7 figures in your business, and they're barely making anything.
Okay. So.
You know, so that's more of the discrepancy I'm seeing in our industry.
Yeah. Coming from the professional space as a psychotherapist, you have all these licenses and continuing ed. And I mean, I think I have 5 licenses and 6 certifications, but for me, I wouldn't even come out as a coach without research-based education.
Which I think is great.
That's traditional me. I know it's traditional, but I think it's so important. And
I do too.
I think the public can kind of see through that. If you're not studying and really genuine to what you're teaching,
100%,
you're doing a disservice.
Yeah.
You really need to come from a place of pure education and authenticity. Let's get into what the narcissist signs are. Okay.
Let's talk about it.
Now, you heard what the sociopath was.
That's all the way on the scale of, let's say, a 0 to 10 narcissist. That's like a 10.
No, the psychopath who kills is the 10, the worst.
So sociopath would be like 7, 8, 9.
That's right. That's a sociopath. The narcissist, again, both of them are narcissists.
Got it. It's rooted in narcissistic personality.
Yes.
Okay.
But then this higher level is an antisocial personality disorder.
Okay.
But they're still narcissists because it's all about them.
Got it. Okay.
You say they don't care about others.
Okay.
Most people are not, when they're saying, oh, I have a narcissist, and I hear from Dr. Hare's list all the thing they're doing, is that, honestly, honey, you have a sociopath.
Yeah.
And that it's really important that they know the difference. Now, the narcissist also seeks excessive admiration. They have this sense of entitlement. They hate rules. I'm going to do what I want to do because I just feel like doing it.
Yeah.
And they don't think about their partner, like what happened in my marriage that I annulled. There was no, oh, this could ruin me on my job and my reputation and my wife's reputation and destroy the family. No. It was all, I want this now, so I'm going to do it. Right?
Because this benefits me.
That's right. Okay, so they're preoccupied with fantasies of power, success, ideal love, or beauty.
Okay. A perfectionist could fall into this. Somebody that loves the idea of like the perfect life, the perfect partner, the perfect amount of power.
Yes. And again, we have to look at what childhood wounds this is coming from.
Okay. Nuance.
Yeah. It's this large scale from 0 to 10. And then they take advantage of others for their own gain.
Yeah.
Jealous and controlling and extremely selfish, materialistic, and worry about themselves. So that's a sign of a narcissist. But let's talk about a healthy narcissist.
Yeah.
Okay, so in my research, I even cite Oprah as being a healthy narcissist. And what that means is someone that's kind of self-obsessed in the point that they're trying to do for others.
Okay.
And Oprah's always serving the world.
For sure.
Right? Beautiful personality. But so into that, And then when we look at her childhood wounds, which were many, coming from poverty, growing up,
sexual abuse.
Yeah, there's so much,
having a baby at an early age.
Going into broadcasting and not accepted because of her color and her weight.
Exactly.
So there was so much that I'm not good enough messages were constantly handed to her. She was proven, and I have something called the watch me mindset for success. When people doubt you or put you down, if you have that in your mind, seriously, watch me. And it's not a statement of anger. It's like your own self energy to say, I can do this.
Yeah.
Not only for myself, but to help the world.
Right.
And you grew up learning that. Watch me, really? People say I can't be a singer. Watch me, I'll do it. And you end up on 3 multi-platinum CDs. So you prove that you can. And then you decide from there, do I want to keep this or do I want to move on to something else? It's not like you're hurting anyone.
Right.
But it's your own self-determination to get where you wanted to go. And so did Oprah. So then you can help the world at large.
Yeah.
Once you got your message out in singing, you went on to form Epic.
Yeah.
So you could now put water wells in Africa.
Right.
It wasn't for that selfishness of any way. It's like this target of energy that you wanted to see if you could do it.
Yeah.
Yes, I think anybody that has really serious goals about their life, at certain times to be in that mode to go for them, you have to invest a lot of time and energy in your self-growth.
Yeah.
It's just what is.
Yeah. So would you say, because in hearing that, I even think about my own journey. I think a lot of my proving, especially early on in my maturity, came from a sense of like, I want to prove that I'm worthy enough for this. I want to prove that I can.
That you can do it.
Because you don't think I can. But really, I don't think I can, so I need to prove it to myself.
Yes,
right?
that's right.
Unconsciously.
That's right.
The unconscious conversation. Is a healthy narcissist somebody that is overcoming their own bouts with worthiness and attempting to prove to themselves or to the world, but mostly to themselves, because it's always that first, that I am worthy, I do belong here, my voice does matter, my needs do matter, my purpose does matter.
Yes, and I think a lot of people in the spiritual energy world is somewhat healthy narcissists.
Yeah.
Okay, why? Because we have to do it for ourselves before we can do it for others.
Yeah.
It's just like I say, you have to be a successful single first before you can be successful in relationship.
For sure.
Right? You can't come to someone in debt and say, I want a wealthy man. Okay. Well, a lot of women say, I want a wealthy man. Yes, they would crave that because cave woman brain always will crave security. We can't help that. We're hardwired for that. But are they successful in themselves, like financially sound, good friendships, good with their family, in a good space with no debt? Are they there first?
Right.
For us to help the world, we have to be in our own good space first.
For sure.
Right?
Otherwise, you kind of enter that martyr phase where it's like, I'm just going to give to everyone and be so depleted and then be so resentful. And then
Right. So that takes time on focus on self.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing to be a healthy narcissist if you're not hurting anyone in any way.
Right.
And your greater mission or power is to help the world in some way.
Help serve others.
But it takes a while. Like when I was writing my book, I barely saw anyone for 6 months. And it's like, look, guys, I'm writing this week and I'm not coming out.
Yeah.
And I'm doing me. So that was a narcissistic time period to write a book that I felt the world needed.
Yeah. When I came across doing my own research on narcissism, it talked about the healthy narcissists are a lot of the leaders we see out in the front that are really leading the charge in amazing ways.
Right, that's right.
I mean, there's a lot of leaders leading us off a cliff as well, but there's amazing leaders, amazing public servants, amazing people who are just really, truly shifting the world.
Yes.
And it takes a level of boundaries and willingness to, I don't want to say cut other people off, but to go, this is my priority right now.
Yeah, it's almost like you're self-sacrificing for a period of time. You're taking yourself, no, I can't go out and have fun. No, I can't do this because my mission is greater right now.
Right.
And it's okay,
Yeah.
right, as long as you're not isolating for too long. But let's talk about someone that says, yes, I'm here to help the world, like one of our top politicians, without me saying names, who is very much a narcissist and not healthy, right, more skewed to the line of malignant narcissists. He's saying he's serving the country, but there's a lot of self-serving in there, especially financially, right?
Yes, we're seeing a lot of that.
We're seeing a lot of that, but also comes from childhood wounds.
For sure.
Right? There's a lot of childhood trauma that was never healed within that person, always trying to prove, see, I am good enough.
Yeah.
So you can see where the wounds come from.
Yeah.
On the everyday people scale of relationships, relationships. If you consciously know someone's not right for you, then release them in love and look for someone who's more consciously aware.
Yeah.
Doing the research, what is an emotionally healthy relationship? It's someone basically who has done their work around childhood traumas, who is able to admit and apologize quickly.
Yeah.
Hun, it's not your fault. I did, or I'm feeling this. Right. And being able to talk through their feelings and knowing that they're 100% responsible for their own actions and feelings, but also being able to share them and knowing where these wounds come from.
That's an important fact, because I think a lot of people want the conscious relationship, but again, they're not willing to do that work for themselves first.
Yeah, it's really important.
And so they come into the relationship and maybe with some level of consciousness around their past, but not like, oh, this is my trigger, here it comes again, this is for my wound. And then when they get into a fight with their partner, and this is what we're seeing right now in this trend of narcissistic labeling, they get into a fight with their partner. And because their partner shows up a particular way, that's a complete mirror for their wound or their trigger, they go, oh, that person's a narcissist. And then they just throw the blanket of narcissist on them and walk away and go, not my problem, not my fault.
They may not really be aware of childhood trauma work.
Yeah.
Really, again, because it's so cutting edge. And then I have a lot of people say, well, I'm such a good person. Why would I have attracted the sociopath?
Right.
Which is also, again, narcissist. So I want to speak on that. Because let's say you are very kind-hearted, spiritually aware, a good person. Because I've asked this question.
Yeah.
Because I'm a good lady. I'm a loving mom. I'm a good lady. I'm honorable to the relationship. It's like, how did I attract sociopaths? The research shows that they really can tune in to very good-hearted people.
Yeah.
Who also believe in forgiveness.
Right.
So when you're spiritual, you do know how to forgive. And I've been studying spirituality since my teens, right? So I would give someone a second chance or a third chance. You try to keep peace in the family. You try not to break up your family. It's the last thing you want to do.
Right.
So you give them chance after chance. And sometimes a lot of the women especially are financially dependent on that person. So they can't leave. Now, this was a lot of the boomers especially. And you love that person. So you want to believe in them.
Sure.
When they say, I'm sorry, I screwed up. I won't do it again.
Yeah.
So you want to believe and give them that chance. Okay, they see their fault. They're not going to do it again. And then it happens a second time.
Yeah.
And a third time. And a fourth time.
Yeah.
This is when self-love has to say, well, how much more can I take?
Yeah.
And then that you have to say, so I have to love myself more and make sure, if you are a mom, that my children grow up in a healthy way, even if I'm not with their father.
Right.
I have to make sure that I'm taking responsibility for my mental health and my children's emotional health, right? But this is the type of person they seek. If you give that person hope, the predator, so to speak, they keep going back because they miss your love and attention. They really do crave the love of that person, so they're going to try over and over to get you back.
Right.
Research shows these relationships, when the conscious partner says, this is not right for me, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
But if you have abandonment in your past, you'll keep going back to give them another chance. And the average is 7 times.
Interesting.
7 times you'll keep trying because you want to believe and you hold on to the love that was good.
Yeah.
Because obviously you have to recognize there was good love.
Of course.
And that's what brings you back the beginning, quote unquote. And those of childhood trauma attract those of childhood trauma.
Yeah.
They're like magnets.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Let's try and heal this thing.
If you don't know what you're healing,
right,
then you keep going in this toxic cycle, I call it, right? Of this hearts and flowers, which is great, and then the erosion, and then the blame, and then the arguments, and then you make up again.
Hearts and flowers all over again.
Yeah, it's similar to the domestic cycle of violence that they talk about in domestic abuse, but sometimes not even as severe.
Yeah.
It's emotional abuse,
Subtle,
right? A mental abuse. And they do seek out rescuers, loyal people, wealthy people, but these kind-hearted people not consciously will enable them, but they may have this higher tolerance for cheap drama because they grew up with it.
Right.
Or this toxic environment became normalized to them. That was just normal what they grew up with.
I would even say that some people are addicted to that drama, addicted to the chaos, because it's what they know as love and safety.
Well, it's normalized.
Right.
We call it it's normalized.
Right.
So until they see that relationships should be peaceful and loving and supportive, yes, they're attracted to that cheap drama, which is what we call, unfortunately, chemistry.
Right. What you label as chemistry is actually like all of your trauma bumping
That's
up
right.
against each
I
other.
talk about in every interview.
And it's like your insecurities being pressed.
It's the worst way to fall in love.
Yeah.
But this is what we were taught in the fairy tales. Sleeping
course.
Beauty, the handsome prince comes, kisses you, and boom, you go off and you're happily ever after.
Wrong. We never see what happens after.
Yeah, right.
You're like, can you show me 10 years down the line?
Yeah, for real. But that's how we were told this is love.
Yeah.
And it's the worst way to fall in love. To me, I describe it as the icing on the cake. You have to have an attraction factor.
Sure.
Obviously, you're going to make love to this person, right? So you have to be attracted. But you've got to look at the cake. What's the substance of this person? Without the cake, the icing just falls flat.
For sure.
You have to know the questions, and this is what I teach my clients. What's the 24 questions you ask on date 1 and date 2? And it's not like an interview.
Yeah.
And I'll give you one, just for example.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like big rocket science, but when you ask them and you know the childhood trauma work, you'll know in date 1 or 2 if this is an emotionally healthy person or not.
Right.
Okay. The first question could be, and I'll tell you about one of my clients that was out on a date. She asked the question. She knows the questions to ask. So it's like, well, tell me about your mom and dad.
Yeah.
Are they still living? Because she's a baby boomer.
Yeah.
Here was this guy's answer. And she says, Rihanna, initially I thought this was a great guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Pulled the chair out for me. Asked me if I wanted food, not just a drink, and very charming. So she comes out with the first question. He goes, well, my dad's died, and we really had a rough time when he was an alcoholic. Boom. She knows he has childhood trauma 1.
Right.
Yeah, okay. He was a child of addiction. He did quit when I was 13, and he worked really hard to build that relationship. So, my dad and I, we took hunting trips and fishing trips. So we had a good relationship. I miss him.
Okay.
Great. A great sign that childhood trauma has healed.
Yeah.
Okay. So how about your mom?
Yeah.
Oh, my mom. If I didn't have to see her, I wouldn't. She's in a old folks home. I got to take care of her. Honestly, I can't wait till she goes. She's been an alcoholic, never stopped. And when my dad got rough with me, she didn't even step in to try and help me.
So no trust with women.
No trust. This is what I call in my book a mother hater.
Yeah.
So if you have a mother hater, he's not going to respect the woman he's with.
Right. Because ultimately he never got it from his mom.
That's right.
Right.
The first love you're supposed to have is from your parents.
Yeah.
So if he didn't feel love or trust or safety, and she wasn't there to help him, he has this huge resentment.
Yeah.
The other thing that happens, he tends to perfectionize women. My woman should be like this because my mother was, and I want this ideal woman, right? So she walked away with her heart racing, and we learned that if they have anxiety, now this is a good sign. Okay, they come to me with ongoing anxiety because her childhood wounds aren't healed. They don't have confidence about dating.
Right.
Now she says, anxiety is my friend because it's a message.
It's like a red flag.
It's a message now. It's like, okay, I'm feeling this now. This is one of my diamond clients, so she can text me.
Yeah.
Rihanna, this is what happened. I said, great, I'm going to call you.
Yeah.
Right? I said, well, how are you feeling? I said, I want you to process this. You're learning very well.
Yeah.
So I said, what do you think you want to do with this? She goes, well, initially I was really attracted and I felt he was great. But when that came out, boom, it attached me right away that this is a mother hater, right? And so I think I'm just going to keep dating. I said, I think that's a very smart choice.
Okay. Would there be hope for her if she did choose to be with this person? Or is that almost like a no because of how he's still relating to his mom?
To me and us and our system, it's a no.
Okay.
Because what we do is called conscious dating.
Yeah.
And we consciously make a choice to be with someone
based
or
on where
not.
they're at.
Right.
Which I think is important to point out.
We're not falling in love with someone's potential.
That's what I want to talk, because
Yes.
that's what I was getting at. Because I think a lot of people listening are like, oh, but it doesn't mean they can't change. Right?
Yeah.
And that's what we see a lot with people that we work with is like they fall in love with somebody's potential or they fall in love with the idea of what they could be.
Yes, I've made that mistake.
Yes, same here.
Yes.
And then we end up punishing our partners for who they've always been.
Right.
Yeah.
So we want to see it early on, and then we choose whether to continue or not. So she said, I'm going to think about it overnight. I'll tell him in the morning. I said, sounds good. So she calls and she goes, I think you're very lovely in many ways. I just don't think we're a match.
Yeah.
And I want to wish you good luck. And he starts screaming at her.
No way.
And she goes, I don't take this, and I'm just going to hang up on you. You know, good luck to you. And hangs up and blocks his number. She goes, there it was, like clockwork, exactly like you told us, a mother hater. When you are empowered and know what to look for in dating, it's a much easier process.
Sure.
And we say we'd rather be single than settle.
Yeah.
And we do protect our heart and our boundaries. And yes, no one's going to be a perfect partner, but have most of the childhood wounds healed.
Yeah.
And you can really uncover that with knowledge is power.
It is.
When it comes to dating.
And the thing is, too, if you don't have your childhood trauma fully healed, It's all good as long as you're aware of it and you're on the path and you're willing to look at your stuff.
Yeah.
And that's where I think this whole narcissistic trend of that person's a narcissist, my ex is this, but okay, maybe. And what does that mean?
But are they a healthy narcissist?
Yeah. And what does that mean about you? And like, where do you show up on the scale?
Right.
And you know, a lot of times, and I talk about this example a lot, is people will read personal development books that'll be talking about issues and trauma, and they'll think about someone in their life. Oh my God, that's so my friend. Oh my God, that's so my ex-partner. Oh my gosh, that's so my daughter, my son, or my mom, or my dad. And rarely we go, is that me?
Yeah.
Like, you know, rarely we look and go, oh my gosh, this is actually me. And so the invitation is really to go, okay, great. Where do I fall on this scale? What am I trying to heal? What are my childhood traumas, and how might that be attracting certain types of people into my life?
That's true, because when I first read this, I could easily diagnose my husband. It's like, well, I grew up, and I always hear my childhood was pretty normal.
Yeah.
Right? And then I'm like, well, no, you know, my dad was like James Bond. He was FBI, CIA. We didn't know it, but I do remember asking all the time, when's Daddy coming home?
Yeah. So he was always gone.
He was always gone, and he couldn't tell the family where he was. That's how he supported our family, so that's called a no-fault abandonment.
Right.
Because that's how he supported us. But he also couldn't tell us.
So there's also like a level of mistrust.
Yeah,
right. Because you thought he was a salesman.
Well, I knew he was involved with athletics.
Right.
And there's yet another track meet. And that's what we thought he did. But he also was helping athletes across what they called the Iron Curtain back then come to America.
Right.
Okay, so he was involved on the national level in athletics. He was kind of a hero for that.
Yeah.
You know, so I looked up to him, but it's like, well, where is he? And then when he came home, he was the kind of loving one. When my mom was a tough and cold and work hard, and we didn't hear I love you, and we didn't get hugged. But when you become a parent, and this is a big healing story that you all can understand, you become that mom you always wanted.
Sure.
Like my girls, you and Steph always heard, I love you, and lots of hugs and kisses. And it's like, okay, Mom, you don't have to kiss me now. Like when they had to be cool as teenagers, it's like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I'm going to kiss you no matter what. And you're going to get used to it. And they did. That was important for me, that love was shown. And I see you do it with Kingston, which I love. We can change these childhood wounds. As we recognize them and see what we needed and didn't get, we give those things to our children. But then we're also going to make some of those mistakes too. We really have to keep working on the messages that we were told, like, you know, my need for security, because I grew up hearing, well, there's not enough money for heat, and going to bed with 15 clothes on me and socks because we didn't have enough money for heat. So that security message will always be keen in me.
It'll be chasing you.
We always are working on our stuff. But knowing it and acknowledging it is really important.
That's the healing.
That's the healing part.
That is the healing.
Yeah.
But, you know, you brought something up in parenting that I think is important, because anytime I or Preston have posted anything about this narcissism conversation, a lot of times what we'll get is, my mom is a narcissist, my dad is a narcissist. And it's like, again, a blanket statement on the parents, which might be true to some extent. But what would then be the child's, who is often an adult at that point? What's their, is it the same conversation?
It's a huge responsibility for the children to look at their parents and say, what did they grow up with?
So compassion.
So I had to look at my mother. She grew up in the Great Depression.
Right.
And it was all about survival. And I asked her at 24, after I was the first of 5 children to have babies, her grandchildren. So I said, I love you, Mom. I said, I'm going to teach this woman to say I love you. And when she finally said it, I'm like, oh, thank God, you know. And I asked her, why don't you tell us that? Or your kids need to hear that. She goes, well, I never heard those words.
Right.
We weren't affectionate. We were all about surviving. And then that's where forgiveness comes in. It's like, oh, okay, but Mom, can you tell us now? You know, and then she was telling us all the time and told the grandkids, which was great. So we have to look at our parents with love and empathy and say, what did they go through?
Totally.
Was she a narcissist, or was she in survival mode to take care of her and us? Right? She had to be a bit narcissist, because if she wasn't, we might not have survived. Right? That's the bigger piece of this. You have to forgive your mom and dad and see what wounds they came from. Was their father in their life? Was their mother an alcoholic or on pills? In the 50s, that was a big pill popping thing.
Was.
If you don't know, watch Mad Men.
Yeah.
Pure example. This is what my parents' generation was like.
Yeah.
The men did whatever they want. The women were stuck at home, often without their husbands, very unhappy, turned to pills because that's what the doctors gave them, or alcohol. Husband walked into a martini. Now, my father's not a drinker. He was an athlete. But this is what Mad Men puts on as normalized. That was
very apropos of the time. Well, and that's the important thing I really want to highlight here and underline is that all of this work starts with forgiveness and compassion.
Huge.
And
that's the spiritual piece of this.
It is. And I think it really even starts with the parents. Because again, if let's say I attract someone with a 6, 7, 8 narcissistic personality, my responsibility would be, okay, let me look at my childhood trauma, which often comes from my parents.
Right.
Which then I have to look at their
parents, that's right.
I've got to look at their
3 generations back.
That's it. I've got to go kind of ancestrally and do the research and figure out what my lineage is. Like, what do I come from? What are my fears? And this is something for those of you who don't know, when I found this out, I was like, mind blown, so cool. Maternally, our maternal line is super strong.
Right.
For instance, when you were pregnant with me, you made all of my eggs.
Yay!
Yeah, so you essentially made Kingston, and you made the twins.
Yes.
So they're genetically a part of you. So anything that you were going through at the time that you were going through it when you were pregnant with me, is genetically imprinted on my eggs.
Yeah.
So Kingston will have it, the twins will have it. So I need to know what you were in spatially, genetically, emotionally, physically, in order to understand the genetic imprint that got put on while I was being born. Right. And this is why the maternal line especially is so important, because your mom, grandma, made myself and Steph. Yeah. And it's like, what was she going through at the time when she was pregnant with you? And so it's really important for us to understand, not only for our own understanding, but to have a level of compassion for the fact that we're all freaking human. Yeah. We all go through an amount of suffering in our lives.
That's right.
It's how we be without suffering or how we haven't been without suffering that affects our future.
Yeah. And if you're not willing to forgive your mom and your dad, you will continue to suffer.
100%.
And it will come out in illness, disease, anger, depression, anxiety, and you may not know why.
Yeah, and it's low-lying a lot of times. Yes. A lot of times it's this subtle thing that you're like, my life is awesome on paper, but I'm not happy. Yeah. Or like, I do all the things right with my health, but I feel like shit. You know, and it's like this underlying subtle thing. And it's because we're holding on. And it's the suffering and the resentment and the holding on to something.
You got to let it go. And the biggest piece is if you don't understand your mom and dad's behavior, and this is why I said I had to look at this with my husbands, your father and my other husbands now, who all came from childhood trauma, which I did not know when I married them. I didn't know this information. It wasn't out there. And then when I see the behaviors that they did, I'm like, oh my God, this makes total sense now. Right. And then because I could understand it, I could forgive it. Yeah. Not that I didn't suffer because of it. Right. I suffered in both situations. But I had to forgive it so I could become what I call open heart, open mind to love again. Yeah. And when I see these people, I could see them with pure love and compassion. Right. It still may be a little difficult to be in their presence, but like when I ran into my ex in Palm Beach, the first thing I did was hug him and say, hey, how you doing? Are you okay? Yeah. And I knew from that relationship he gained a lot of weight, 90 pounds easily, and he was not happy. You could just tell. And but that's a sign he has not forgiven himself for what was done.
Well, and that's another big part of the conversation. I think a lot of people who have had what we would deem a narcissistic partner, whether on the scale of 0 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, often they can't forgive themselves. They're like, why do I keep doing this? And they're punishing themselves, which ultimately, in my opinion, keeps attracting more of that.
You can't, without knowing this information. Yeah. This is why I had to ask, why was I attracting sociopaths? Right. Okay, and they both were. And it's like, okay, now I see. Good-hearted people who believe in second chances. They're forgiving. I've been spiritual almost my whole adult life. I loved him. I believed they would change. I wanted to believe in them. I wanted to keep my family together. All these things. And eventually, when you suffer so much, it's like, I can't do this anymore. Right. and I'm better off with my own peace of mind and a safe space for myself and my daughters, that's when you have to make the move. It's important that you don't stay in something that you consciously know is toxic. You just can't. It's going to kill you. Unhealed childhood trauma, all the research shows, if you haven't seen the Kaiser Permanente study out of San Diego, it's amazing. But they did the childhood trauma piece that's unhealed compared to illness.
Yeah.
And illness starts in your 30s.
Yeah, interesting.
If you do not heal your wounds from the past with forgiveness and understanding, you're going to make yourself sick.
Yeah.
And all early disease, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, irritable bowel syndrome, MS, all Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, this stress erodes the immune system and it breaks the body down.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that stress is not just like, oh, my job is hard or I'm overworked.
No, it's this deeper emotional stress that you're not releasing.
Totally.
Because trauma stays stored in the body and the brain cells.
Yeah.
My trauma work says it takes at least 6 months. This is why I work with most of my people 6 months.
Yeah.
And bringing this to the surface, you have to bring it to the surface to understand it. Then we have to forgive it and sometimes rewrite the story around
100%.
it. Like I had to rewrite the story around my mother. I understand now what my mother went through, and I love her, and she loved us the best she could. 5 kids without a husband supporting her. Of course she was an upset woman. I'd be upset too. When I forgive her for what she went through, she suffered.
Yeah.
Now I have full love around her, and she presents all the time, you know, in my room, and it's pretty cool. You have to heal that so that you're not bringing that illness into the world and in your own body.
Yeah, and into your relationships. Like, I would say that you being single now, your boundaries are so much stronger because you've done that healing work and forgiveness with your parents.
That's right.
Like, I understand their trauma. I understand 3 generations back.
Right.
I've forgiven it. Doesn't mean it still doesn't show up and present for you.
Yeah.
But you understand it.
Yeah.
And so when you start to see those signs in other people, you go, you know what? I'm actually not going to say yes to this. This isn't a game I want to play.
Yeah.
Because I'm actively working on mine.
Yeah, it's like, I want to be your friend. I enjoyed your company. We're going to run into each other in town. You know, I want to be able to say hello. But I just don't see us moving on in our future together. Yeah. There's a kind and loving way to just release that person, and then that opens your heart to receive somebody new.
Yeah, but I think it's important to mention, because there is a stigma around being alone, whether you're male or female, but mostly for females, I would say it shows up, that it's important for us females, or for those of you that are men listening that really are relating to this, to go, I would rather be alone and be really connected to my own healing, to my own light, to my own purpose, than to be with somebody that is not healthy.
Right.
That is maybe triggering all the things that I'm conscious of.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
because they refuse to do their own work, or they haven't done their own work yet. Or
I think a lot of people are quick to just jump into something because it's like, yay, a person, a body.
Who loves me.
Who loves me.
But you can have love in so many different areas. You have love with your friends. Yeah. Love with your children, love with your acquaintances, your neighbors, love with the people you work with. Yeah. Like, my clients become family because we do such deep work.
Even I look at someone like Oprah, a perfect example. She's gone on the record to say this. She doesn't have kids.
Right.
She's like, I look at my work as my child. She's like, I've given everything to my child, to my work.
Right.
She's like, I have my dogs. She's got Stedman, like her dude.
Yeah.
But for her, it's like, this is her thing. And she's poured herself into that.
Yeah.
And she's made that decision to be okay for herself.
That's right.
So you have to decide what, and it's important to have something, right? And I think a lot of people are banking on it being the relationship to like save them and give them a sense of purpose.
And a relationship without purpose is not going to make you happy. You still have to have purpose in life.
Exactly. So I think it's important for people, again, to do the work on themselves, get really clear on the work that it still needs to be done, and also like, okay, great, what do I want to channel my light into? Yeah. Because, you can channel it into a relationship. And what else?
And your relationship has to be supportive of you.
Yeah.
If you're dating someone, yes, I work a lot of hours, there's no doubt about it. Yeah. But they've got to be supportive of my work, not like, oh, you're working again.
Right.
Because I do carve out time. I know how to balance. It's like weekends is fun time. You know? Monday through Friday, half a day is work time. Yeah. And Wednesday night I take a night off too. So I do put in that time for love and friendship and fun time, but they have to respect when it's work time.
Totally.
That they got to be okay with it. If they're not, if they don't support me, then they're not supporting my mission.
Totally.
That's important too.
What would you say for someone to fix any love addiction, a codependency, or if they're keep attracting these toxic people on the scale, right? And again, not all people on the scale are bad.
Right.
Like point
again,
that
recognizing we all have some childhood trauma.
Yeah.
There's different levels. Like once I meet with some, I assess, is it a 1 level of trauma or a 10?
Yeah.
And what type of work do we have to do to heal that?
Okay.
But you have to know there's definitely help out there.
Sure.
That's the important thing. But do make sure you're with someone that understands trauma work.
Which is important.
A CCTP is a certified clinical trauma professional,
Yeah.
and I have that certification. And then I also have them certified in mindfulness work.
Yeah.
Right, and certified as a global coach and psychotherapist. So I put all those hats on to help my client.
Yeah.
Right, it's really important you have someone that knows the trauma work. Keep in mind, if you keep doing what you're always doing, you're going to get what you've always got. Okay, the level of insanity.
Right.
If you haven't taken the time to heal your traumas, do it.
Yeah.
And don't wait. I have clients in their 70s that come to me, and then they move on and say, I'm the happiest I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
And I think of my client, Bob. He's with his girlfriend. He always gives me the white knight photos from their cruises.
Yeah.
He's still with his girlfriend. He said, I'm the happiest I've ever been. He came to me at 73.
That's
So
awesome.
the sooner you do it, the better your life, right?
Yeah.
You learn this once. It's not a Band-Aid. It's not like dating skills you can get from a book. Once you
Right.
heal yourself, you have that healing forever.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful thing,
Yeah.
okay? So that's super important. And you start by boldly just facing the past fears
Yeah.
and what we call awake to awareness.
Yeah.
This is the awareness, okay, this happened to me. We're not looking at blaming or shaming ourselves or blaming our parents.
Yeah.
It's changing your unconscious negative and anxious mindset to full conscious awareness and positivity.
Okay.
So you're not living in the negative past
Yeah.
anymore. When you live in the now, this is your conscious presence. This is your happy place.
Yeah.
If you're always living in the past messages, that's where there's depression.
And suffering.
If you're always living in like, but I want this, I want this for my future, I want that for my
Scarcity.
future, that's where anxiety
Yeah.
lives.
Right.
Okay, so if you're too much forward focused,
Yeah.
like, will I get this? This is the life I want. There's anxiety.
Yeah.
And if you're living in the past, there's depression.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, you're 100% responsible for choosing that great partner, so you have to get educated
Yeah.
and get your healing going. I do have that Life and Love Transformation program for people that's interested. It starts by just meeting with me. I do a few assessments. The Childhood Trauma Checklist is free on my website, rianamilne.com, as is the ACOA checklist, which is adult child of an alcoholic or other trauma.
Yeah.
It's a great test to do. And if you're dating someone, you're not sure if it's a healthy relationship or they're a narcissist, I have free on my website the red flag checklist.
Yeah.
Looking at it factually, not to blame or shame, and saying, okay, like I am in a relationship that needs dire help. So
Yeah.
either you get help for the relationship or you say, I got to release them in love and get healing for myself because this might be the 4th time this has happened to me.
Right.
And why am I attracting this?
Right.
And I totally get being at that stage of I don't know what I don't know.
And that's
And that was
yeah.
killing me,
Yeah.
Lex. I mean, like, what am I doing wrong here? You know, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I needed the answers.
Yeah. That's the important thing I really want to point out. There's a level of humility that any work in personal development takes. It's easy to do the surface stuff, the fun stuff, the visioning, the vision boards, the law of attraction. Cool, that's all surface.
Right.
The minute you go deep into the darkness of the soul and you go into those areas that we've kind of shoved underneath the rug, it's hard and it's challenging sometimes to look at maybe what we've been through. A lot of times we tell ourselves a story of like, oh, I had a good childhood. It wasn't that bad, but we don't recognize the subtle trauma that shows up.
That's right.
So it's really important, like, to know that there's information out there.
Yeah.
We have the information now. We have the research. Now, of course, it's going to keep evolving, but it's our responsibility to work with people or to do the research ourselves, however we want to go about it, to really dive into this space and to understand the self more completely so that we can be more successful in all areas of our life.
It's funny when I looked at the Kaiser study and I had this 10-point childhood checklist. Now, for the listeners, there's more than 10.
Yeah.
But these are the top 10 I saw in my work over time and then in the partners that I was attracted to.
Yeah.
Right? The Kaiser study did not have some of my 10 points, which I thought was very interesting. Like they did not have abandonment on there.
Which is so
They did not have bullying.
Oh,
and I worked
gosh.
in the schools from kindergarten to college with all the kids that were bullied. I'm like, how could they not have bullying on here?
Which is such an imprint.
Which was huge.
Yeah.
You know, kids of foster care. I worked with them at Atlanta Care Hospital. It's like, how can they not have the kids that were put up for adoption 2 or 3 times or from the foster care system?
Shuffled from house to house.
Yes. So my list was very different from their list, but they have evolved their list to include now abandonment and bullying.
Oh, that's great.
Some of the things that I have is now on there. And then some things of trauma people like say, well, verbally.
Yeah.
And they would say, well, if you watched your mom and dad yell at each other, or maybe you were screamed at, that's verbal abuse.
Yeah.
I put, if you didn't hear I love you,
yeah.
or you never heard compliments, or instead you heard put downs like, you're stupid, you're ADHD.
Right.
When that message could have come from school, not your parents, but it's
or
still
a
a message, or a doctor, right?
Yeah.
You're not good enough. Those messages I thought were super important.
For sure.
And they weren't on the list.
Yeah.
Now it does include that list. It is still evolving work.
Yeah. Right.
This is trauma-based because these are our belief systems if we're told it from people we love and trust, which is parents, teachers, coaches.
Doctors.
Then those are messages that are in our unconsciousness
Awareness.
that is stronger than our conscious until we retrain it.
Of course, especially when they're done at a particular age where our identity is being developed.
That's right.
And that's the thing that people don't understand. In childhood, we're actually developing who we think we are.
Ages 1 to 11, well, birth.
Yeah.
You know, in utero to
in
11.
Utero. There's so much research around in utero
Yeah.
and like what gets imprinted during that time, which again is so important. I'm having a girl now. I thought about that so much. Like, I'm making her eggs. So I'm making all my grandchildren for her.
Yeah.
And what am I imprinting on them for future generations?
So an anxious pregnant mom passes on anxiety to their children.
Of course, And so again, like humility and willingness and responsibility all go hand in hand. If you really want to do real personal development, it's not just developing the surface version identity of you to be successful in the world and rah, you made a lot of money and people think you're awesome. Cool. But have you gone to the depths of yourself?
Yeah.
And if you haven't yet, it's all good. There's no shame in that. But start that journey now because you don't want to get 10, 20, 30, 40 years out in your life and go, holy shit, I missed the point.
Yeah.
You know?
For real.
And that's something that I'm seeing, thank God, in our generation of millennials and Gen Xers and Gen Yers and those who are younger. It's like there's this earlier looking in the mirror, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I wish I had this information way younger, you know?
But you think about, like, how is this going to change our world? It's exciting to think how, among a lot of other things that aren't working, you know, like our addiction to technology and yada, 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 but there are some things that are really shifting, and it's going to be really cool to see how our children and their children grow up.
Well, I want to do a parenting
we'll do a parenting episode too.
Yes.
But for those who are interested, again, listen to episode 15 on this podcast where we talk about those 10 childhood traumas and how they show up, how they present in relationships. So you can really start to identify yourself in those. And of course, people maybe that you're in partnership with, but look for yourself first. So that's a great episode. And then if for people who want to learn more or take the childhood trauma checklist and get those assessments, where do they go?
My website's RianaMilne.com. My podcast is LessonsInLifeAndLove.com, which is all about teaching to heal the trauma in various areas of your life and love relationships. My YouTube channel, I have tons of interviews and videos on this work. And of course, just reach out to me for a life and love transformation session. I do a deep dive in 1 hour. Everyone says in 1 hour I learned more with you, Riana, than I learned in 7 years of therapy. It's going to go deep diving into what's happening and why. And then you have options in how to heal this. The good news is there is healing. There's life beyond this. And it's a great way to live. It's a very peaceful, calm, empowered way to live once you have this information.
And empowerment is huge, but empowerment requires information and application. You know,
taking massive action.
Taking action. And again, if you want different results, you got to try something different. The invitation is there for you to explore this, to see where you show up on this, to see maybe why you keep attracting people with certain qualities, or maybe you might be that person. And maybe you can start taking a deeper look into yourself.
Without blaming, but saying, okay, I had some wounds that are leading me to this, and it's time for me to heal this.
All with compassion and love.
That's right.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for listening. I hope you got some amazing value, or at least one insight that you can go ahead and apply right now. Because again, all of this information is awesome and inspiring and motivating and uplifting and holy cow, this was great. But if you don't apply it, it doesn't mean shit. So take something, take one thing, do some research, go to her website, take the assessment, check out episode 15, do something that tells your unconscious mind that you are serious about healing this. That's where the game changes. That's where sustainable change actually happens. As always, I thank you for taking the time and spending this hour with me, my mom, this information. Hopefully it has informed you in some way that can truly lead to that deep change. And if you did find value, make sure you screenshot, tag myself at Alexi Panos and my mom at Riana Milne on Instagram.
Well, I'm more Facebook, but Instagram's cool. I'm trying to learn this.
I'm more on Instagram.
Yes.
But...
Either way.
Okay.
Yes, both is good.
Okay, so at Riana Milne, I'll make sure I put her tag in the show notes. And let us know what you took from this. Let us know what landed. Let us know what blew your mind, what was an aha. That's a really great way to tell me what you really love and what you want more of. And if you have the time, take 90 seconds and review and rate this podcast on iTunes. It exponentially helps to get it out to more people. And if you do that, screenshot that and send it to podcast@alexipanos.com. And I will send you a super secret link to about $1,000 worth of freebies to help your life, love, and your business take off. So check that out. I love you guys. Have a phenomenal week, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Okay, love angels and transformers, that's all we have time for today. I appreciate you sharing the love and the mission of helping me change the way the world loves by simply sending the show link to your friends you love and care about. Please take a moment also to subscribe to the show, give me a 5-star rating, and comment what you liked about the show. Us podcasters always appreciate our listeners' ratings. Remember, you can reach out for help during this week and meet with me just by going to my website, rianamilne.com. And while you're there, get my free ebook, my book chapter downloads of Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams, and complete the 4 free love tests. You're sure to learn a lot. And as always, I am here to help you create the life you desire and to have the love that you deserve. Have a blessed and fabulous week.
We want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Lessons in Life and Love with Coach Riana Milne. Go to rianamilne.com for more resources. And if you're really ready to take action to improve your life or love situation, apply now for a session with Riana. And remember, it's time to have the life you desire and the love you deserve.